Hello! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel. I am so excited that you've happened upon this video, and if you like what you see, then please feel free to subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me. So, in today's video, we're going to be talking about all things biomedical engineering. So if that's something that interests you, then please stay tuned. I thought I'd start by giving a kind of overview of what biomedical engineering is if you have never heard of it before. So, biomedical engineering is finding engineering solutions for healthcare problems, aka applying engineering principles of like mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, software engineering, all those kind of things to medical issues. And as there are so many niche issues within healthcare and medical profession itself, then there are again so many niche areas within biomedical engineering, which makes it a really interesting and constantly evolving area. So I myself studied a master's in biomedical engineering and I studied 5 years, so I have now been graduated for 2 years, which I actually can't believe, and it makes me feel quite uneasy, but getting old. I thought I would go through the kind of structure of the course for a biomedical engineering degree in case you're interested, in case you are interested in applying, or in case you're like currently in one and you're just wondering what's next. I'm thinking you probably know, but you know, doesn't matter. I'll talk you through it. Also, my point of reference is UK universities. I'm not entirely sure. I know the US system's a wee bit different, but I think it should still apply roughly similarly. So generally the first like 2 years are spent kind of honing down on the core concepts of biomedical engineering. So this includes the kind of core principles within mathematics, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, electronics, software engineering, molecular bioscience. So basically a big mishmash of different subjects. If you're in your first couple years right now and you feel like you're floundering, you feel like, oh my goodness, there's so much to learn, you've got this. Don't worry. You've got it. It's fine. You can do it. Okay? In your perhaps third year, this will be spent kind of deepening your knowledge within these areas and also starting to apply them to more medical scenarios and more healthcare based areas. In your fourth and maybe fifth year, if your university has a fifth year, then you're really going to be working in the kind of specialist areas of biomedical engineering. Now these may vary from university to university depending on what kind of research areas they work in, but kind of the general areas should remain the same. And then also within these years you should be doing things like research projects. Again, there's like a range of areas to choose from, and more kind of project management work, which is really important within engineering. So I'll include on the screen what modules I did in my kind of first to fifth year, and then you can kind of see like as it works through how things get more kind of specialist as they go on. So as I said, the first couple of years is like generic principles, those kind of things, and then as you go on it's like those principles apply to medical problems. Biomedical engineering. So the ones that are on the screen right now, these are all obviously from my specific university, which was University of Strathclyde in Glasgow, but obviously your university may have slight differences, so I would just have a look on the university's website and then they'll have different subjects that you'll do each year listed on the website. I love how one of my first years just like biomedical engineering. Like that's just what they call the class. Like I don't even remember what that one was. That's quite an inventive name for a biomedical engineering degree. It's rather vague. So you've got first 2 years, for example, electronic and electrical principles. That should get in the kind of basics, but then your third year it goes into instrumentation and microcontrollers. So that's kind of putting the theory and actually applying it in real life scenarios with devices and things like that. And then again, specifically like biomedical electronics, biomedical instrumentation. So you can kind of see it just progresses and becomes more specific as you progress through the course. So I thought I would do a kind of pros and cons list of studying biomedical engineering, because when I started I had no idea what I was in for. Like I genuinely had no idea. I didn't even know biomedical engineering was an option when I left school. So for me it was kind of a rogue choice. But if I had a video like this to watch, I would have been very happy, just because it's good to, you know what you're in for kind of thing. So I'll go through the pros to start off with. So these are the advantages of studying biomedical engineering. As I've kind of explained during the kind of course content section, you study a wide range of areas. So this means that you gather like such a large skill base across these different areas, and then as you kind of progress into like work and things like this, these skills are super transferable between different areas, and employers really appreciate these skills and kind of seek out these skills. And these skills aren't just what you've learned theoretically, but also in terms of various types of software. So when I left uni, I had on my kind of like CV, I had like a long list of software and programs that I'd worked on. I may not have been expert level, but I think that really looks good on a CV, having that kind of experience, particularly softwares that may then be used in industry. So for example, I know that SolidWorks is one that's commonly used in industry. That's a CAD software. And then other kind of perhaps like coding languages and things like that, using like perhaps C language. All these different skills are really, really useful and allow you to kind of choose from like a wide range of areas that you can potentially progress and work in later after you finish uni. Similar to that last point, there are a bunch of things that you learn, so I think it kind of keeps it interesting. Like you're constantly learning different things. You're not just studying electronics for 5 years. You're not just studying design for 5 years. You're doing a bit of everything, and I think that makes it really, really interesting. That can be a disadvantage as well, like I'll get onto that later, but I think it is really good and it keeps you interested, and yeah, I think that's a positive. Biomedical engineering degrees themselves also have a high number of kind of practical aspects rather than like solely theory. So for example, practical kind of electronics tutorials and things like that, and then also obviously like working with software and stuff like that, that is technically practical. So it's not just purely theory, not just purely based on exams, so it's a good range. A kind of general advantage about the area of biomedical engineering is that it is a thriving area. Now that it's kind of coined a term of biomedical engineering, it's never not going to be necessary, especially in the current climate of healthcare. Now that we're working so much to kind of like preventative medicine rather than just kind of treating things as they occur, biomedical engineers are always going to be necessary and relevant. So I think to get into it right now, when it's just continuing to thrive and progress, is a really, really good time. And that also means that there's going to be plenty of jobs available. They may not specifically say that they're for biomedical engineers, but your kind of skill set will allow you to do those jobs. Because this is such a kind of up and coming industry, there's also lots of opportunities for travel and things like that, and money. That brings me on to my next point, which is jobs can be pretty well paying. Engineering in general is quite a lucrative area, and biomedical engineering is no different. If you're interested in specific numbers, I would recommend that you go and watch my careers and job options following a biomedical engineering degree. It is one that I did previously on my channel, and it's one of the best performing videos on my channel, so I'm really, really grateful if anyone's watched that. I actually carried out a survey from 37 people who had completed a biomedical engineering degree in the UK, and I have specific numbers about what people are earning, what jobs they went into, and their thoughts on kind of biomedical engineering itself. So if you're interested in any of that, I will link it up here, and I'll also link it in the description, and go ahead and definitely check that out. This is a bit of a random one, but I thought it was worth mentioning. There are generally more females on biomedical engineering courses than other types of engineering courses. So for example, civil, mechanical, electrical, software, etc, etc. There are more females. So for example, our class was about a 50-50 split. However, when we went and took part in mechanical classes, it was like a 1 in 5 female to male ratio. So that might be something that is worth bearing in mind if you're a girl and you're wanting to meet more kind of like-minded gals, or if you're a guy and you're wanting to meet some girls. Either or. So yeah, I thought that was worth mentioning. I did biomedical engineering as a undergraduate master's, so that meant it was a full 5 years, but there's also scope to do a 1-year biomedical engineering master's degree, and that could be following like a number of different courses. So for example, different types of engineering, other science degrees like physics, biomedical sciences, like that kind of area. And generally the courses should be set up so that, for example, if you came from an engineering background, you'll still receive that kind of science background, and vice versa. So it should be well kind of set up. This is another advantage, but this might just be specifically for the university that I went to, but I thought it was worth mentioning in general. So for my university, the biomedical engineering department had solely been a research department up until about 2013-14. So there was a lot of research going on, which meant that there were a lot of opportunities to go ahead and work in research, and then that meant there were so many different niche areas that you could go into. Okay, so I thought I would now talk about some disadvantages that are inherent in biomedical engineering. This one kind of goes hand in hand with the first advantage that I spoke about, which is that you study a whole range of different areas. However, this can kind of also be a disadvantage in itself. A, because you're feeling like, oh my god, I have so much to learn. But also B, because I went through periods in university that I kind of felt like a jack of all trades, master of none kind of situation. I would be in each class and I was doing well in each individual class, but I wasn't feeling like I am a expert in this kind of thing. I know everything about it. It was more prominent when you would be in classes. So for example, maybe electrical engineering courses, and you would do 1 electrical engineering or 2 courses for your whole semester. However, all the other electrical engineers, all their other classes are filled with electrical engineering theory, so it's like they're constantly surrounded by it, so you've always felt like you're a bit kind of 1 step behind. So that was a complaint that me and some of the people that I went to uni with, we constantly felt like that. As long as you kind of know that going in, I think that you should be okay. This kind of goes off my last point as well. You do a lot of different areas, and it is an intense course. I mean, everyone thinks that's true for all their courses, particularly engineering courses, but it's intense. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's an intense course. It's full on. You are working with a bunch of different skills, a bunch of different softwares, a bunch of different programs, and you need to try to be on top of it, and it is just quite intense. So just be prepared for that and aware of that. Another disadvantage compared to perhaps other types of courses is that there's not a bunch of flexibility in the areas you can choose to study in. Well, that was my experience, but I think that it might be similar in other universities. We were only kind of able to choose our specific courses that we wanted to study when we got into our 4th and 5th year, and again it was from like quite a condensed list, so there's not a bunch of choice in that regard. This is a kind of contradiction to one of my previous points, which is that despite it being quite a hands-on course with things like the tutorials and different softwares and things that you use, you do also still need to know a lot of theory, particularly in the areas like the more science areas, so perhaps like biomedical science, those types of courses. In my experience, those were examined purely by knowledge, so it would just be an exam and there's a lot to learn. Like it's just one of those ones where you just need to sit down and remember things. But yeah, it's not all hands-on. There is some stuff that you just need to know the theory and just know the knowledge that kind of underpins all the practical stuff. Regarding jobs kind of after uni, as I was saying, the skills that you learn make you a good candidate for a bunch of different jobs. However, sometimes it can be difficult to kind of target those jobs, especially with like search engines and things like that. So maybe if you graduate and you're just searching biomedical engineer jobs, you might be like, oh my god, there's hardly any. It might seem like there's not a lot. However, if you actually type in maybe mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, software engineer, and look at the specific roles and the specific skills required, then you probably have a lot of those skills. So the jobs themselves might not be tagged bioengineer, and hopefully that will be something that will change like as biomedical engineer becomes more kind of prolific, prevalent, well known. But as of right now, I think you just need to do a bit of your own kind of research and look into the jobs and see if your skill set matches the job in question. Okay, next section is going to be areas that you can work in following a biomedical engineering degree. Now, as I said, I did a whole video on this, so I would highly recommend going and watching that video because it's the best place to get a kind of full overview of specifics on companies that you can work in, salaries that you can be making, kind of progression within different areas. Like, it's quite a comprehensive video, so I really recommend you go and watch that. But right now I'll just do a kind of short summary of that kind of video. So there are generally 3 main areas that you can work in following a BME degree. Also, I've been saying biomedical engineering this whole time, which is kind of a mouthful, so I'm just going to say BME from now on. The main area that you can go and work in is industry. So this is commonly the medical device industry. However, you can also work in the more kind of pharmaceutical industry. And I'm just going to list off the areas that you can work in within these industries because there's a lot. So there is research and development, design, manufacturing, process engineering, sales, quality and regulatory, test engineer, field service engineer, and operations. So there's a bunch of different areas. You can also opt to work in research or academia, so that would be through again like a PhD, an ND, then going further onto like postdoc work, and then perhaps going into like lecturing, that kind of thing. There's also the healthcare world, which is what I work in, and that can be through becoming a clinical scientist, or in my case a clinical engineer, or becoming a clinical technologist. There's also other areas such as kind of more regulatory areas where you might be working with like MHRA or FDA or that kind of thing, or working with kind of clinical trials in that area of work. Or you might come out of uni and decide, I don't actually want to work in a BME related role, and that is totally fine as well. So here are a few areas that you could possibly work in. You have the kind of finance and tech world, teaching, other engineering areas, so for example mechanical, electrical, all these areas that you've already studied while you're in university, and also things like kind of more like government roles. Those are quite interesting, and I go into that in a bit more detail in my other video. Well, that's kind of everything for the video that I wanted to do today. It was kind of a whistle-stop tour of biomedical engineering, but I hope that you found it useful if you're kind of thinking about studying it, or you're currently studying it and you're wondering what's to come kind of thing. What am I doing with my life? Because trust me, I've been there, and you'll get through it and you'll be great. If you have any questions related to biomedical engineering, let me know down below. I will respond to every single comment, I always do. As I just said there, I am a biomedical engineer that works in healthcare, so I have a kind of patient-facing role. If you would be interested in a kind of week in the life, day in the life of a biomedical engineer, then let me know. That's definitely something that I could try and do, so yeah, just let me know in the comments down below if you would be interested in that. Also, if there's any other kind of BME related content that you'd like to see from me, let me know. I'm open to all your options. Well, that's everything from me today. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, then please hit the like button. I would really appreciate it. It really helps me out. And subscribe if you'd like to see anything more from me. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!